Greetings from planet Earth on a cold, not cold.
Yeah. It's a little chilly out there. Definitely nasty weather. But such is life. What's so funny, Zack?
Oh boy. Hello.
Hi.
There you go. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, your audio started to go out a little bit, and I was like, "Man, come on back, baby, come back, or else we're gonna. I will do a crazy intro." But it's Thursday. It's live. That's how we roll.
I think I'm back.
I'm
back. Good. Well, hello, Tim.
Hi. It's great to see you.
Push a T in the house.
That's right. Good. Represent.
So are we just doing different shirts now every week now? Is that like, are we going to taste the rainbow? Like what are we doing here?
Well, it's still a black shirt. Just a little bit more visible on the, yeah. Oh yeah. Last week was navy blue.
Yes.
Speaking of Navy, shirts? Our guest today, former Navy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know absolutely nothing about this guy. So this will be fun. Sometimes you know them, sometimes I know them.
Sometimes we don't know him at all.
Sometimes
we know him really well.
This is a one of us.
First time that this is the first time, Leland, you don't know this, and the audience probably doesn't know this. This is the first time we're doing this show when someone's in their 40s. Yeah, the co-host is in their 40s. We're going to have a more mature show today.
Yep. I guess. You've been in your 40s on the show.
No, but I said the co-host. Yeah, dude, I'm 40s are now in my rear view, which is crazy.
Yeah. I feel like I'm the same person.
Same.
It's just a day, just another day.
Is this WrestleMania 40th birthday present? Nice.
It is. Yeah.
How are you guys getting up there, Zack?
Drive 5 hours.
Nice.
Leaving Saturday morning.
Take the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel?
Well, we're not taking the Key Bridge.
Oh, too soon.
Yeah.
I don't think we would have taken that anyway. But, taking it up. 5 a.m. we're going to leave. They got this thing called WWE World, which is like an immersive museum. So we'll go do that. Then we'll go to the granddaddy of them all. Bucket list item number 1. Finally gonna do it.
Man, what's going to rise to the top after you attend?
I don't know. I gotta go look at my list. Skydiving was always on there, but now that I'm older, more wiser, I don't know that I ever really want to do that. Have you ever jumped out of a plane?
No. Leland, you?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, like if I'm like 18 to 25, like I was like, oh, I gotta do this. My wife's done it.
Yeah, I've done iFly. That's the closest thing.
It can't be that close.
Well, I mean, it's still skydiving, but
the tickets that you won at the event that I went to way back when, like 10 years ago.
I don't know. I don't remember. It could have been. I don't know.
Wasn't it from that ICE thing? Innovation, culture, extreme, something like that.
Man, dude, I don't even remember. Man, that's like long ago.
Yeah, well, someone that we know forced us to go down a memory lane, and that was not part of it, though. But yeah. Anyhow, Leland, hello, welcome.
This could be the longest intro in our 204 episode history.
Could be. So the Vroom, VROOM. I'm just like interested in what Vroom means in this case, because when I saw it, I was very interested in what the origins of just the name are.
Yeah. So Rich Barton, the former CEO of Zillow, has this philosophy that you name a company based off of high Scrabble value as well as 2 syllables. And so when I was thinking of a name for my overall real estate company, the etymology behind Vroom and Brick is, Vroom annotates something that's fast, and then brick is a material that a house is made out of. So in the context of real estate technology, VroomBrick really symbolizes a fast and efficient way to buy a home.
But is it really one word or is it two? Because you have the B capitalized. So when it comes to Scrabble, I feel like you're...
I would say it's more of it is one word in this context, but it could be a compound word.
Okay.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about VroomBrick. I mean, like, gosh, there's a lot to dive into. So let's just start from the origins and what is it, and then we can dig in because this touches a lot of different areas.
Yeah. So backing up a little bit, I was a realtor in my past career, and throughout the process, I noticed a lot of inefficiencies. A lot of that stemmed from the military clientele that I worked with. Being a veteran, I mostly worked with, when I was a realtor, I mostly worked with VA loan buyers. And so VA loan buyers have this great benefit called the VA loan. And so you get to put zero down on a house, you get lower than the average market value interest rate. And all of that, you really just have to be able to qualify for it with your income. But because you're a service member, that's one of your benefits that you get. And so although you have that zero down loan, you still have to pay closing costs. And the VFW organization, Veteran of Foreign Wars, states that the biggest barrier for veterans buying homes is closing costs, because they do have this zero down loan. And so as I was in my time as a realtor, I always contributed a certain amount of my commission towards my buyer's closing cost, as a benefit and as a sort of thank you for your service. Because being a veteran, I know what they went through. I know that closing cost is a barrier. And so what I started thinking about in the incubation stage of this company was, how do I make the real estate process more efficient? And that's what VroomBrick is rooted in. So really, we're all about customer empowerment through technology. And we provide a platform that democratizes the buying and selling process for military buyers and sellers. And so the savings are passed on to our users through our transaction dashboard. And on that dashboard, we bridge the gap between procedural guidance, education, and connecting you to the necessary stakeholders of a real estate transaction.
That is, how much is still left to be disrupted? Like, would you say that we're still at the very, very beginning stages? I know it's been a long time since I've purchased a home, and it's just the amount of paperwork and the amount of signatures and the amount of, that, just the binder you get when you're done is just crazy. How much of that?
Or then to resell it the next day.
Oh, the selling the mortgage.
And again, yeah,
right.
But how much is, like, I don't know, like, it just seems like when you see packets of paper and you're burning that much stuff and people are carrying clipboards, that just smells like disruption opportunity for me. How much has been digitized? How much has been optimized? And how much is there still left to be disrupted?
Yeah. So to answer that question, I want to back it up a little bit. And this goes back to when realtor or real estate agent in the United States started. And it's in the 1900 timeframe. So backing up to 1920, the median home price was $6,300. And so median income was around $2,100. So, 3 years of income, equated to around the value of a home. Back then, real estate commission total was only 2.5%. So on that average home, that comes out to be around $170. And so as a percentage of total income, real estate commission was about 7.25%. Fast forwarding to today, real estate commission is about 30% of median income. And so to break down those numbers, real estate commission now is around 6%. So whereas in the 1920s, it was 2.5. So 1.25 was going to both sides. Today, it is now more. And, back in the day when realtors had to drive people around, they had exclusive access to the real estate information network. They were the ones actually marketing, networking. So it's kind of counterintuitive. Commission has actually gone up from the start, even though we have more technology. So I think a lot of that stems from monopolistic practices. And really, like you said, there is a lot to be disrupted. It just hasn't played out that way yet.
I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, to me, you're bringing back like flashbacks, like, and maybe they're like, this stuff is not even part of it anymore, but like lead paint, there's so many different disclosures and everything else that, it's just like, you should be able to just
not have lead paint. I
yeah.
think they still have that.
Yeah.
Pipes and noise. And there's just, then that's not even getting into like the home inspection and all that stuff. But you add the whole thing. We're now, if 3% is going to the buyer and seller agents, and it's just like, man, 3% of the home price as opposed, and like, that's a lot of money. And that's assuming you're making money, that you have equity in the home. But if you're, to your point, a military member, and you had to turn and sell that home in 2 to 3 years, and you haven't had a chance to make up the closing costs on the front side, or you haven't got equity on during the 2 to 3 years, that could be a pretty significant loss, I would think.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, just to zone in on what you said, it disproportionately affects the military because you're on these 2 to 3 year orders, and you don't have to sell your house. But if you want to get your maximum VA loan allotment back for your next duty station, it is an option to sell your house. However, I don't know how many times someone has sent me a request as a seller and said, like, how much money would I realistically make if I sold when I transfer from Norfolk in, this next summer? And, oftentimes, if you've only been here for 2 to 3 years, you haven't had time to build equity in the home. And the realtor fees are eating away at the equity that has been earned in that home over time. So really, at the end of the day, commission becomes by proxy, a tax on your net worth as a military veteran. And selling doesn't really become a feasible option. And then, that takes up some of your allotment for when you're trying to buy your next duty station.
And it's amazing to me, Zach, like, I live in a really, really heavily populated military neighborhood, but it's just stunning, man. Like, when I talk to people throughout our neighborhood, like, as they PCS move from low base to base, how many people collect homes and then just, they buy a home, they move, they rent it out, buy another home, move and rent it out, and that, it's not necessarily by choice as much as it is like, I got to hold on to this thing because I haven't made enough equity, or I don't have enough equity in that property that I have to hold on to it and rent it out.
Isn't it because like the first 10 years is like so much interest?
Well, and I think that it's a cycle, and correct me if I'm wrong, Leland, but way better than I, but it's just the cycles of home buying. If you got if it's a hot market, then that's great. But if you happen to buy in the peak and then sell when there's a dip, And
Well, it's like people now, they're like, hey, I'm going to sell my house because I can make this much money. It's like, you still got to then go buy a house this expensive. So it's like, or this increase. And do we really think they're going to drop?
What's the average home price in this area, Leland? 400,000? I have no idea.
It's around that $380,000 mark in the Hampton Roads.
So to pay 6%, so that's just make math easy, 24,000.
Yeah, pretty close to that.
And if you're in a hot market, man, it's just like, how much, I don't know. Nothing against the realtors that are going to listen, but it's like, man, you have access to MLS. You can see everything that you want to see before you even see it. But then the selling agent, they go in, they turn the lights on and unlock the house. And if it's a hot market, especially if you're military.
Do you think they're in those spaces though? Like realtors are in that space because the overwhelming majority of an individual doesn't want to be in the sales process. They want someone else to negotiate for them, or at least do any of that stuff. I don't know. I feel like most people don't want to be in uncomfortable situations. Like they don't even like saying no to someone, right? And so I think that's where the value of an agent in that case is so that you don't have to have those hard conversations, and you don't want to. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. That's what I would envision is to why.
Yeah, it's an interesting exercise that I like to do, and really to kind of take a term from the All In podcast. If we steel man a realtor's position on how they add value, I would say that they give those negotiation tactics. They provide you a expert knowledge of an area. They write your contracts. They open up the doors to let you see a home. They provide, fact sheets on the home. But the kind of argument where VroomBrick comes in is, why can't technology do all those things for less? And those are the tenets we focus on, is like, if commission has increased over time, but so has technology, you would think it would be the opposite, that as technology has increased, commission has decreased.
It's just like, I would have no problem paying some sort of a commission to someone selling my home if they were able to, all right, the average selling price in your neighborhood is 400,000 and they were able to get 450. I would be more than happy to give a percentage of that 50,000 that bumped up over the average. But to my point earlier, if you're taking a loss on the house, or if you're not going to make any money or break even, and then you're paying those commissions, that's a bitter pill to swallow.
Yeah, and that's a problem that VroomBrick is trying to solve. We take everything that a realtor does, and it's on our platform. Everything from transaction coordination, and then anything as far as stakeholders, you're connected to our partnered closing attorney, partnered lender. You're always welcome to use, a different stakeholder if the prices are better, or, if you have a personal relationship with them. But what VroomBrick does is give you that procedural guidance. Okay, I just ratified a contract. When is my home inspection contingency removal due? When am I getting my termite and moisture inspection? When is my appraisal happening? And keeping you on track, as well as providing an intermediary transaction coordinator for you to make sure you're going to get from point A to point B. The way I look at it is, when you order a pizza from Domino's, you have the Domino's pizza tracker. We essentially provide that Domino's pizza tracker of real estate. And then to bring in another analogy, we essentially act as the TurboTax of the real estate world. So you don't necessarily need an accountant to do your taxes, or a CPA to do your taxes. You don't necessarily need a realtor to buy or sell a house. And that's what VroomBrick does. So I'm not saying there's a need to completely eliminate real estate agents. I do think some people will want that experience, that person-to-person experience, especially in the older generation. But what I think society is trending towards is taking out these intermediaries, and VroomBrick wants to be a part of that customer empowerment that allows people to facilitate these transactions on their own.
So real estate agents hate you, though, is what you're telling us.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, because we add value to a transaction. We're bringing a necessary buyer to a seller, and then from all the agents we have worked with in the transactions that we have closed, the realtors have left reviews and said it was a great experience, because we're allowing the seller to. So let me back up and explain how that works. So if a house is advertised as a 3% buyer's agent commission, but they're using the VroomBrick platform, we're only taking 1% of that. The rest of it goes to our buyer, and it gets put towards their closing costs. So we're not changing the seller's bottom line at all. We're providing them the tools and the platform to facilitate a transaction on their own. The listing agent still gets paid. The seller's bottom line doesn't change, and we're able to get them what their objective. We allow them to accomplish the objective of selling their house in an easier, more user-friendly way.
And there's a big, and Zach, I don't know if you followed, and Leland, if you want to talk about the big case that was just announced with the Realtor Association in terms of,
sure,
that's throwing all kinds of disruption in the air as well.
It's my understanding, though, that those percentages have always been negotiable. And that's
so on I guess on paper they have been, but in practice, here's the whole premise of it. If I'm a buyer's agent and I see a 3% buyer's commission on one listing and then a 1% buyer's agent commission on another listing down the street, the whole concept that was happening is called steering. And essentially what was happening is that the buyer's agent would really only show that 3% commission down the street versus the 1%, because they know that they're going to get paid more. And I'm not saying every realtor did that, but across the board, it was happening to some degree. And so as a result of this lawsuit, the big change that is happening is that buyer's agent commission will no longer be advertised in MLS.
That's it. Yeah. I don't know. Gosh, there's so much to all that. I saw something in the local report saying that that ruling isn't going to impact Hampton Roads region that much. What's your take on that? Do you agree, disagree? And if so, why?
Yeah. So I think we are very cushioned by our military presence. And it's the whole concept of just the market forces are going to allow people to vote what they think it costs to transact. So, if someone puts up their house for sale and they don't have a buyer's agent commission advertised, what's going to happen behind the scenes in the traditional setting is that the buyer's agent has to negotiate what their commission is going to be upfront with the buyer. So in the same way that the seller had to sign a listing agreement with their listing agent, a buyer is now going to have to sign, exclusive buyer agreement upfront. And so they're going to have their commission baked into their services that they're doing. And they're going to go put in an offer on a house, and the realtor is going to have their commission on that contract. So it's no longer advertised, but they're still going to have that commission that they're doing their service for. And so if someone can come in, if buyer A has a buyer's agent that still wants to do it for 3%, but buyer B is using VroomBrick, who allows you to do it for 1%, the seller's bottom line is going to be a 2% difference if all other factors are the same. So really what I think is going to happen is it's going to level out somewhere to around 2% if I have to put a precise number on it. But as a whole, people are going to be looking for alternatives to using agents. And so the big impact of that lawsuit is really just no commission being listed. But I think if I'm NAR's lawyer, I'm thinking that they got off easy, because there's two other things that are monopolistic practices that was not mentioned at all, or no changes are occurring to it. And it's, so the realtor lockboxes prevent access from anyone who's other than a realtor. And then the other part that wasn't mentioned at all is, in order to get a listing on MLS in the first place, you need to be a realtor. So there's that monopoly on data entry, and there's that monopoly on access. So there's those two things that weren't mentioned at all. So NAR can still maintain its overarching power in that regard, because the more eyes you have on a listing, the more traffic from buyers you get, the more control you have over the process. And if traffic is being driven from MLS, which NAR controls through access and data entry, then they still have a position of authority. They still have a position to be able to have control over the situation.
I think it's interesting, like how much Airbnb or VRBO has kind of changed the potentially changed the buyer's mindset. Like with us, we'll go through swiping pictures and we'll book an Airbnb or VRBO without ever seeing the place. And I think that will eventually stem down to the buying process, where like you go through some pictures, hey, I'm interested in this, and then you may go check it out, have the home inspection or whatever. But it's really, especially from the military side, it's going to change the buying procedure has changed, I would think.
Yeah. So I think COVID actually changed a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
I've dealt with a lot of buyers who have just bought virtually. When it comes down to it, the inspection report gives them a better snapshot, if they weren't satisfied with just that virtual showing. But yeah, overall, I think there's still a need to see the house in person for the majority of buyers. But there are other tools for people that are more flexible. And, I would even recommend seeing the house in person, especially if it's an older home. Like I myself wouldn't ever buy on sold virtual unless I had, like a relative or a friend go check it out for me and they were the ones FaceTiming me.
Yeah. So Tim, you actually think that people will spend that much money on something sight unseen? Like, you think
not necessarily sight unseen, but I think that especially in terms of like military, once they get their orders, their time is like, they may get what is permissive TDY for active duty? You get 5 days or something, maybe 10 days.
10 days of, or at least when I was in, it was 10 days of house hunting leave.
Yeah, so you got 10 days. Call it 12 to 14 days to like find something. So like you got to do a lot of homework beforehand. And then but if the home inspection comes back and the assessment value comes back, to me, I think those would be two key factors knowing to expedite that decision-making process.
Yeah. And so let me highlight an example of our most recent buyer and how they were able to save using the platform. So they were buying a $540,000 house. They upfront, they're using the VroomBrick platform, and they were able to save 2% on their closing costs. So initially, they they had their offer reviewed by the closing attorney, written up, and they submitted it with the 2% closing cost assistance. So they already had about, just call it $10,000 in closing cost assistance using a conventional loan in this case. And so when it came to the repair request, it became all that much easier to request for more repairs, because now this is the first time that they're tapping into their overall bottom line of the seller. In a traditional transaction, there are people asking for closing cost and a realtor commission and repair credits. Whereas in this type of a transaction, they've already got a closing cost up front from using the VroomBrick platform, because VroomBrick's only taking that 1%. And then when it comes to those repairs, now this is when the seller starts tapping into their bottom line. So this touches on Zach's point of, working with realtors, not against them.
Where are you right now in terms of, so you've, it sounds like you've had people go through the platform and use it. So where are you at in terms of development, and are people able to go to the website and use it right now?
Yeah, there's about a dozen users actively using the platform. We've also had multiple closings already. So it's up and live. It's a web app at the moment, working on the iOS and Android development currently. However, the MVP is fully live and fully functional. So if people are looking to save on their closing costs when they buy or sell, VroomBrick.com, you just go to get started on our page.
And I want to touch on like the founding team. You're well-rounded in that regard as well, in terms of the expertise that you bring. I mean, like, to me, team is such an important part of a company. And when you have experience and expertise on the buying and selling side, you being a realtor, and then the lending side, you have a well-rounded team, so you're able to put that back into the product. No?
Yes, no, definitely. So being a veteran, I have that inside knowledge of what military buyers and sellers need. And as a former realtor, it's one of those situations where I was boots on the ground, seeing how what I call the legacy system works, and kind of the approach that I'm taking here is that I know that the real estate market needs to be met where it's at. And like, there's not going to be some crazy transformative process of just AI taking over and doing every realtor's job. It has to be kind of this transitional process in which you meet the market where it's at, improve it through technology, and bring it to where you want it to be. A lot of people have the wrong approach, and not to call out any companies, but some companies try to take this marketplace approach without having both demand or supply, which is necessary for that marketplace. Like, if you just create something like Craigslist or create something like Facebook Marketplace, it doesn't mean that people are going to list on it. It doesn't mean that people are going to start because it goes back to why MLS still has control. It's all about the eyes on the home. So we give you the tools to meet the current marketplace where it's at, and as a seller, sell for that maximum value and net the maximum amount. And then as a buyer, you're meeting the listings where they're at and having the proper tools to transact and interact with that listing.
I'm interested, just to go back to the thing that you said before. You used the word MVP in your vernacular. Do you find that using stuff like that actually hinders or maybe causes challenges for people? Like, when you're like, someone not want to use it because it doesn't seem like it's complete enough or something like that. Do you find that using vernacular like that
Yeah.
on a prototype. And I know it's not just a prototype, but like, why use those words in what you say? Is it just because, this is a business show? Fair. Like,
I think that's more of, for my classification, the way I look at it is we're always looking to improve the product. We go through different cycles of iteration. And so when someone goes on there, it's a fully functioning product, but there's these cycles that we are going through to constantly improve it through user feedback. And so that's why I consider it more of the minimum viable product at this point, because there's so much to be done, so much to be improved, but the important pillars of it are there. The customer empowerment and the savings are, at the user's fingertips, and everything they need to feel comfortable and confident to buy a house is there. It's more about what's coming next and what is going to be improved, and why I use that terminology.
Got it. How do you build trust with customers in an archaic world where they're so used to doing it the old way that seems at least safe?
I think part of it is our marketing approach. I see a lot of companies kind of take this unserious approach to marketing, like using memes and, trying to connect with people on that level. But I think especially with real estate, you have to show them the value up front. And so really it comes from my background as a founder, as well as giving them, when you create an account, having that level of 5-star service from start to finish, giving them free tools like an offer simulator, guidance on the buying and selling process, a knowledge center for education on our site. So just really showing them that regardless of whether they use our platform or not, that we're a resource that they can look to for that education and guidance.
What is Josh, I'm curious. Are you waiting to see more of the fallout from the ruling that just happened, or do you have a set of a roadmap of things that you're looking to add to the platform?
Really, the things that we're adding to the platform are based off of customer feedback from customers so far, and then functionality to make our transaction coordinators more efficient. So as far as fallout from the lawsuit, I think the public is just waking up to seeking alternatives. And, this is a platform that I started building about a year and 3 months ago. So it was before there was anything at all in the air about the lawsuit. So really the lawsuit itself will help springboard what I was already trying to do, but it doesn't necessarily change the overall vision of the company.
You had mentioned like 5-star service a couple of times, like with that, if someone is using your platform to sell, or I guess actually not necessarily sell, but if they're using your platform, do you provide a list of home inspectors, or does something just come up saying, hey, a home inspection needs to happen?
We have a list for them, depending on what area it is. Like, let's say it's Williamsburg, we have like 3 different people, but that list is different for, the south side of the tunnel.
Is that normally through a realtor? Is that why the realtor
home
does
inspection?
that? Yeah, they usually schedule all that.
It's sort of a mixed bag. It's more about, when I was a realtor, I would provide suggestions, but then sometimes people would go with their family friend that was a home inspector, and they would set it up. So it really depends. There wasn't any uniform process to scheduling a home inspection before then. But what we're about is giving our consumers the optionality and that task management aspect that follows onto it. You know, when is that home inspection scheduled? Are they going to be there at that specific time? The report comes in about 24 hours later. Now they have, depending on the due diligence period, they have a certain amount of days to either ask for repairs or for a repair credit. So we keep them on track with our overall dashboard. You know, it pings them to basically provide their inputs for that repair addendum once they've got the inspection in hand.
And all the loan stuff is never really done through a realtor anyway, right? So it's all
no,
the loan
it's
officer
not.
And like all this. Are they the ones? Is whoever's handling the mortgage? Are they the ones that like work with cities and figuring out like all of like because you're like buying the land, like
That's actually the closing attorney.
Okay, in your like 50,000 pieces of paperwork that you're talking about, Tim, like it's like you've seen these things and you're just like, who wants to get paid? It's just like yeah. So the closing attorney. Okay, so that's where you go to actually sign the stuff at the titling office. Is that?
Yeah, it depends. Like some people will have the closing attorney come to them at the real estate brokerage. Some people will have remote notaries. Let's say they're out of town while this is happening. There's multiple ways to do it. But what's really important is there's these stakeholders that are necessary for a transaction. And so the lender is one of them. They're the ones that order. So they pre-qualify someone for the loan, you know, based off of their debt to income ratio and their credit score and numerous other factors when it comes to what monthly payment they can afford. But they're ultimately ordering the appraisal, which, you know, the bank's not going to give you $1 million for a $400,000 house, because in the event that they need to repossess it, they want to be able to make sure they can make their money back. So there's all these checks and balances in place. So that's what the lender provides on that end. And then the closing attorney is the one, their office is running the title search. They're making sure that there's no clouds on title, that the primary lien on the home, which should be the mortgage, is going to be paid off at closing. And then they offer title insurance as well. So those are two of the stakeholders that I would say are absolutely necessary in a transaction. The other optional ones, you know, because some people do home inspections, some people don't, because they want to win a deal. Like, you know, sometimes people waive the inspection to try to win a deal. But there's other stakeholders such as the home inspector. You know, another crucial one is insurance. And VroomBrick connects you to all these people while facilitating the rest of the process.
Gotcha. Are you from here? What brought you the military?
I'm from
here?
No, so my grandpa did 30 years in the Navy. My dad did 30 years in the Navy. I did 5 years, but my family all ultimately settled down in the Norfolk or Virginia Beach area. So I grew up in Virginia Beach. Between Virginia Beach and Hawaii is where I grew up.
Oh yeah, you know. Which one do you like better?
I don't know. I like visiting Hawaii, but I like Virginia Beach better. It's a lot less expensive. It's, you know, all my family's here. I really do have high hopes for the 757 as a whole.
Yeah, days like today, Hawaii doesn't sound so bad. But yeah, it's interesting. Some of the military people that I talk to, like, I can't remember what the phrase they use, but island fever or something. You know, that when you're just stuck there, and there's worse places to be stuck. But yeah, I mean, you get nice to have some of the amenities that are in and around this area or wherever you're at.
Definitely.
Yeah. This has been what a reminder of how complicated home buying is. My gosh.
It's stupid.
Yeah.
Well, the crazy thing is all this stuff comes and it came from a lawsuit of some kind. I mean, it's just like, it's just bananas. I forgot so much about the process.
Well, how long do you guys live there? 20 years?
We've been here 15 in our current home. Yeah.
Okay.
And it sounds like it's still as complicated as it was before, just in terms of like how many people have to be part of the process. And if you're able to simplify that, Leland, then man.
Yeah, see, it's not actually that complicated when you break it down. It's really just a checklist at the end of the day. And following that checklist is something that really anyone can do. So, for example, my first house I bought with a realtor. I had no knowledge of the real estate process. This was in 2019 or actually 2018. And I just really didn't know how to buy a home. So my first thought was go to Navy Federal and apply for a loan. And they assigned me a realtor through their realtor rewards program. And that worked out great. Like, you know, at the time, that's what I needed. My second house, I was not a realtor myself yet, but I went directly to the listing agent. And as a result, I was able to cut down on the overall price by around, at the end of it, we cut down on around 3% total because I was working directly with the listing agent. I signed a dual representation agreement, and I was able to leverage the fact that he was going to make double commission on a home, and the realtor reduced the price of their commission overall to 4%. And then the owner came down on the overall price after repairs were needed. So I essentially ended up getting around a 3% discount for not using a buyer's agent. And so that's really when I started thinking about like, all right, I should become a realtor if I want to continue buying these homes and continue real estate investing. But as I became a realtor, I kept thinking back to that second house that I bought and was just thinking, why can't anyone do what I just did? And it comes from that procedural guidance, education, and being connected to the proper stakeholders. It's really those three things. So it's not that difficult. It's not difficult to buy without a realtor. VroomBrick just makes it easier to do that.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, wow. I don't know. It's just, it's all. Zach, you going to move anytime soon?
No, please don't even put that bug in anyone's ear. No. No.
Yeah.
I just don't want to move. Like the physical moving aspect of things.
Yeah.
So
and to your point earlier, you got to move somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, I thought where we live is where we would be, but like, I mean, it's so easy to get to so many different places, and we have the parks, which I really appreciate. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to move. Leland, when you went to the Navy, were you anticipating getting out in 5 years? And was business always a thing that you wanted to do? Where did that kind of spot come about?
Yeah, so really the Navy was kind of like that family legacy, family business type of deal for me. You know, I mentioned my grandpa, both of my grandfathers did 30 and 20 years respectively in the Navy, and then my dad did 30. So for me, it was the logical step for me after college, because I honestly didn't really know what I wanted to do. And so my dad encouraged me to do ROTC. You know, I ended up, like in hindsight, all the lessons I've learned have made the entrepreneurial journey a lot easier for me. But at the time, on my first tour, I realized that the Navy wasn't for me. It was more about the control over my schedule. Like I just didn't have any control on whether I was going to be out at sea or not. I had gotten back from a second deployment, was about to go on a third. And so I realized that I was going to do 5 and get out. And so after that, though, it became a matter of what can I do that allows me to control my time in the way that the Navy didn't allow me to control my time. And so that's how I got into, in the Navy, I was kind of preparing myself as I got out. So that's why I got into real estate investing in the first place. And then that's why I became a realtor, because I thought it was a job where I could put in a certain level of input and get X amount on my output. And so that was pretty true. You know, the more work you put in as a realtor, the more results you get out. But in the Navy, I came in kind of bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and wanted to make the whole system better. And I realized, you know, in my position as just a junior officer, I didn't have the full control over that. But once I got to the real estate world, I realized that there was actually something I could do about it through business. And so that's ultimately what led me down to getting out of the Navy, becoming a real estate investor, then becoming a realtor, and then, you know, eventually starting VroomBrick, which aims to make the process more efficient.
When you're in the Navy or in the Air Force, are they encouraging you guys to do things like this, or are they just like, no, like stay in forever?
No.
Like,
there's like when you say do things like this, are you talking about like set you up for success afterwards, or
no? I mean like starting a business.
Extra.
Starting a business.
Yeah.
No, you're not allowed to. You're technically not allowed to do like side hustles without approval from your command. But you know, real estate investing, I guess they're talking about like you know, working a side job at like an actual, let's say you're trying to do like bartending on the side.
So you can't work at Blockbuster on the side.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I would say there are different programs as you're transitioning out that can and will help set you up for success. But while you're in, they're not encouraging you to go start your own business.
What's it like growing up here? You join the Navy and then just to turn around and get stationed here. Was that good for you, or was that like, oh man, I wanted to like go see the world kind of thing?
That was great for me actually, because so I was at Virginia Tech, did ROTC there, commissioned, and then my first duty station being Norfolk was great because all my family was here. I lived at home for like the first 9 months saving up, and then from there just went on a deployment. So was able to save up even more. And that's ultimately what set me up for success in like the real estate investing world, which allowed me to inch towards financial freedom. And so being here was my number one choice because low cost of living. And it's kind of, it's interesting to see my friends that got stationed in San Diego, where the cost of living is pretty much double, and to see kind of like what in hindsight they wish they would have done, because a lot of them weren't able to get a house over there when they first commissioned, just because of how expensive things are. And so to answer your original question, Norfolk was my number one choice. I'm very happy with what I got to accomplish while I was here. And I did get to actually see the world through my 2 deployments out of Norfolk.
Yeah, that's I don't know. What are most people's? It's mixed in terms of when people get stationed here. Like They love it.
Yeah.
They don't love it. Yeah. Like what are people saying? The people that don't like it, what are some of the things that they say that they do not like about this area?
I feel like they're thinking of Norfolk as like the base and the surrounding area, and they're not realizing that you have anything you want to do within truly like a 3-hour radius of
the totality of it.
area. Exactly. Yeah. So, as like a young junior sailor, when kind of like the focus of what you're trying to do is like nightlife and that type of stuff, I think that's the perspective that people are approaching it from. But I know a lot of people that, is their first time to Norfolk that actually love the area because of that totality of the surroundings. But I have also heard that sentiment. And what I think people are really voicing is just like, as compared to San Diego, where you can go to like Pacific Beach, Gaslamp District, all these areas that are more concentrated and more of like a true city. I think that's what they're kind of comparing it to.
Have you ever been to San Diego, Zach?
No.
I mean, weather-wise, it's great. I mean, it's like once the morning layer burns off, all the fog in the morning. I mean, weather-wise, it's awesome. I love it.
They have no sports teams now, right?
I don't know. I mean, so the Padres are still there, no?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, maybe they are. Yeah,
they're the Padres. They don't have the Chargers or.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's so expensive. Like, I don't know how anybody can like even go there and buy a home unless you're like, I don't even know how you have enough money to even put a down payment down to purchase property. It's so expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, it is tough out there. And that's one of the interesting statistics about this area. You're able to get a property within walking distance of the beach for under $500,000. Like, there's not really any other place you can do that.
What is like, isn't it? It's crazy. Like, I don't know if it's nationwide or just locally, but like the average number of homes that a realtor sells like a year is like
7,
2 or some crazy number.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
the number, like a vast majority of the realtors.
It's actually like 1 point something. Like,
yeah,
it's the whole like 80-20 principle where 20% of the realtors are doing 80% of the business.
Yeah. It's wild.
Yeah. It's a tough profession to be in. There's 1.4 million realtors currently. And, this lawsuit's going, like, all the experts have been saying about 50% are going to be out of the business by the end of 2025. And the interesting aspect to that is that 80% of the National Association of Realtors revenue comes from those membership dues. So if they're simultaneously paying out these settlements and membership fees are dropping to, less than 50%, then it's just going to be a recipe for disaster when it comes to their financials. And so
can you give me some context to that number? So if 50% are going to drop in the next 18 to 24 months, what's a normal churn rate on something like that? Because I would envision that a lot of these realtors who are selling 1.7 a year, I mean, they're dropping anyway because they're not really doing anything. So like, where is that number?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I suppose like, but if you're a realtor and you can sell like a $750,000 or $1 million home and you make enough money, you only need to sell 1.7 to have a $100,000 a year salary, and you just kind of chill the rest of the year, or is that wrong?
Well, to touch on what Zach is asking, it's because most realtors are doing it part-time. Like, they hang their license somewhere, and they'll be doing like their main job, like they'll be like a teacher, and then, their teacher friend will want to sell a house and they'll go ahead and, help them out with it. And I always told people it's more economical to just get your realtor license if you're ever going to buy a house. And, you know, that was before VroomBrick. But it doesn't make sense. Like, you essentially get a 3% discount on a house if you're a realtor. And so VroomBrick is making it easier to do that process without the need for your license. But yeah, it's the normal turn rate. It's like 80% of realtors get out after 5 years because the dues are closer to $1,500 a year. And, you know, some people just get tired of paying the dues if they're only selling one or less houses.
Fascinating world that I think is just nothing. It's just ripe for continued disruption for at least the foreseeable future.
Definitely.
But I wish you the very best. What's taking Zach's question? What's something that you would like to talk about that we haven't talked about?
Let's see.
Or what's your favorite food of this region?
Favorite food of this region? Gosh, I think, like, I'm one of those people who watches a show once and then doesn't watch it again. Like, so that translates over to food for me, where, like, I like a large variety of things. And I think we actually do have a large variety of food. If I had to go out to one place, I would say lately Italian has been pretty good. There's a new restaurant that opened up in Newport News City Center called Amaro. It's pretty good. That would be my one plug for Newport News.
There we go.
Awesome.
I feel like the more we ask that question, Tim, the more the diversity of food is the answer.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Because there's not, and some people acknowledge that and say there's so much, right? Like Namarama would say that, but to see no one having like a real consistent answer, I think is kind of giving that, which maybe that is a good thing. Maybe that is you know, it's not just the same thing, you know, it's not just a Philly cheesesteak. So, Leland, it's been wonderful. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, it was nice meeting you, Zach.
Yeah, head to VroomBrick.com, learn more.
Yeah.
Buy or sell your home if you're a military member.
Look at Tim acting like every real estate agent out there. If you're buying and selling a home. Until next time.